Hi everyone, welcome to another crochet tutorial with me, Laura, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to work the Tunisian Crochet Rib Stitch. Okay, so here is a little sample of the rib stitch, and it's actually made up of Tunisian crochet knit stitches and purl stitches. Now, you may look at this and think, no, that's knitting, but it is actually Tunisian crochet, a different type of crochet. You may be new to this, you may have heard it before, but it's not completely exactly the same as knitting because it looks very different on the back. So it literally only gives the impression of knitting. But what we're going to be doing, this is actually going to be a boy's little tank top. It's going to be a free pattern that I'm going to release on my website when it's finished. If you want to keep up to date when it'll be available, you can follow me on Instagram. That's usually where I post my updates on what I'm working on. Just to work the pattern, I'm going to bring in a different yarn, and with that I'm going to be using one of my, let's use a 5.5. I've actually lost my 5mm Tunisian crochet hook. It's a tragedy. I don't know where it's gone, but you get two different types of Tunisian crochet hook. Now, Tunisian crochet hook is just like a normal crochet hook in the sense that it has a hook at the end, but as you can see here, it's very, very long. It's like a knitting needle, and the reason for that is it needs to hold a lot of stitches. This is really good if you're just doing projects that can hold that many stitches. If you want to do bigger projects, I know some of you have asked on some of my other Tunisian crochet videos whether you could make a blanket. It does get harder eventually, but you can get, these are actually knitting needles. You don't want those, do you? Okay, let's try that again. I see it's the heat getting to me. Right, here we are. This is another type of Tunisian crochet hook, so it looks a little bit more like a normal one, but it's got a long plastic tubing on the end, which is quite long. This would enable you to make things like blankets. You'd probably be able to at least make a little single bed size blanket, I think, from this, if you squidged up the stitches. So yes, it can work bigger projects with Tunisian crochet, but for the sake of this video I'm just going to be using a normal straight Tunisian crochet hook. If I say needle by accident, I do apologise. I do mean a crochet hook, so I'm getting very confused in the heat. But what we're going to do for this pattern is work to units of 2. And we're going to be having 2 knit stitches and 2 Tunisian purl stitches, but we need to make sure that we start and finish on the same stitch. So you can start with knit stitches or you can start with purl stitches, entirely up to you, depends on what you want to make. So what we're going to do is we're going to count to units of 2, but I'm just going to work out to make sure that I end on the same stitch. So let's just put that to the side. We're going to start off with a normal slip knot to begin and refocus the camera. So what we're going to do is I'm going to chain normal chains first, 1 and 2. So I'm going to count those as knit stitches eventually. Then I'm going to do 3 and 4. They're going to be purl stitches. 5 and 6 knit stitches, 7 and 8 purl stitches, and I want to end on knit stitches, so 9 and 10 for a little swatch. So I know they're going to be knit stitches. So by working it out that way, I'm going to make sure that I start and finish with the same stitches. So I've chained 10 for this little example. We don't need to add any more chains for this row because this loop here is going to count as our first stitch, and this may make sense to you if you've done Tunisian crochet before, if you've watched some of my other videos, but hopefully all will become clear as we go along. So we're going to work a normal first couple of rows, which is exactly the same for any Tunisian crochet project, and we're going to put our hook into our second chain from our hook. So we don't count the loop on our hook. There's our first chain, there's our second. So we're going to put our hook straight into there, a bit better than that. And bring the yarn through, but we're going to keep the loop on our hook. We're going to keep it there. So that first chain that we skipped, our 10th chain, that loop there is going to count as our 10th stitch. So when you chain your project, if you need say 20 stitches, you just chain 20. We don't add any for the first row, the chain row. We just chain 20 or 30 or whatever. So I chained 10 and that was it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put our hook into the next chain and bring the yarn through. We're going to keep that loop on our hook as well. So we've got 3 loops now. I'm going to do that all the way across. I'm going to go into the next chain, bring the yarn through and just keep it there. Just make sure it doesn't get too tight. They can slide up and down. Next chain, bring the yarn through, slot that on your hook. Next chain, bring the yarn through. So this is the same for any Tunisian crochet project, like I said. The first couple of rows are always the same. This would be called a forward row because we're going forward. The next one would be the return row. At least that's what I say. Then the last chain, hook in there, bring the yarn through and keep that loop on the hook as well. So by the end of that you should have your 10 stitches. You should have 10 loops to represent your 10 stitches. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, so when you get to the end you should have the same amount of loops as you chained at the beginning. And what we're going to do now is a return row. So we're going to go backwards. And this is the same every single time. This is the same no matter what type of Tunisian stitch that you do. This never changes. But the most important thing to remember is to just pull through the first loop only at the very beginning. So we're going to do a little chain 1 technically. We're going to yarn over and bring the yarn through the first loop only. Just the first loop. We always do that at the beginning and it's really, really important to remember to do that little chain 1 effectively at the beginning, otherwise you're going to end up with a slanty project. So you've still got 10 loops left, and then what we do is we yarn over and pull through 2 loops until we get to the end. We just keep doing that until we can't do it anymore. So yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, all the way back to the beginning, yarn over, pull through 2, so it's like a really big stitch, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2, and then you can't do it anymore, so we're at the end. Okay, so on the return row you just need to remember to do that, pull through the first loop only at the beginning. It's so important to do that. Then you just yarn over and pull through 2 until you get back to the beginning. And as you can see here, it's created these little vertical bars, like a little ladder. As you can see there, these little vertical bars. Should be quite obvious if you're not working your project too tight. And depending on what stitch you're doing, we pretty much work around these and do all sorts of different things. But the most important thing to remember on this, when we work with our vertical bars now, is we don't work the first one. We already have a loop left on our hook, so that counts as that stitch worked. So we never work into this first vertical bar, so we ignore that one. We've done that one. We're going to find the next one, this second one along here. I'm going to put our hook underneath it to begin, and we're going to work the knit stitch first. So with the knit stitch we put our hook under that vertical bar, but then we need to find the hole behind it, and just to the left of it, left of your vertical bar, is that little hole. It's like a little square hole, doesn't it? We put our hook through there and we go to the back of our project. So it's just gone through your project. Then we grab the yarn and we're going to bring it through that hole and under this loop to the right. And it's probably just going to come straight under that loop straight away. So it comes through the hole and then comes under that loop to the right hand side of that vertical loop. And then we keep that loop on our hook, just like we did before on the other row. So we're just going to do one of those because we're going to count this first loop as a knit stitch as well. These are our first 2 stitches. So that was our first knit stitch. Now we're going to do a purl stitch. Now to do a purl stitch, your yarn is usually sat at the back at the top. But to do a purl stitch, we need to just bring our yarn down to the front. You just need to bring it, just tuck it into underneath your hook and above your project, like so. So it's just down here. And then we're going to put our hook, once that's over there, stay over there, we're going to put our hook through the next vertical bar. So this is vertical bar number 3. This time we're not going to go to the back, we're just going to leave it at the front. So it's just going to stay there. But as you can see, our yarn that we brought down is trapped now between these 2 stitches. We're just going to bring it up to the top. It's going to create this little horizontal bar over the top of our vertical bar. So we're just going to bring that round to the top and wrap it over our hook, and we're going to tuck. It helps sometimes just to pull it down to keep it out of the way. We're going to bring that through the vertical bar and then keep that on your hook. Then it helps to just pull slightly just to neaten that up, and you end up with this horizontal bar. We'll do another one of those, so make sure your yarn is down to the front to do a purl stitch. I'm going to go under, find the next vertical bar, which is here, put your hook under there, don't take it to the back, keep it at the front, and then again bring up your yarn to the top, just hook it over your hook, use your thumb just to keep the yarn out the way, tuck it under that vertical bar and keep the loop on your hook, and then just pull it slightly just so it tightens up, not too tight, just so it's a bit neat and you don't end up with big loops hanging around. So then we've done 2 purl stitches. Now we're going to do a knit stitch again, so we want our yarn out the way at the back, so bring that out the way at the top where it normally likes to sit, and we're going to do a knit stitch. We find our next vertical bar, put our hook under that. We always put our hook under the vertical bar but because we're doing a knit stitch, we need to find that hole that's just sat behind it. So as you've gone through, you just turn your hook out the way, you should see that hole at the back. Don't confuse it with this chain down here. You need to find that hole just there at the back, and it's just under the top of your yarn. So come down just to the left of your vertical bar, put your hook through there. It should find it automatically, and then out the back. Then we're going to grab our yarn from the top, bring that through the hole, and then it just slips to the right underneath that vertical bar, and keep that on your hook so it ends up to the right of the bar. Do another one of those, keep the yarn at the top, go onto the vertical bar, find that hole that's just behind, grab the yarn, bring it through the hole under the vertical bar to the right of it, and then make sure they're nice, not too tight stitches. We've done 2 knit stitches. They don't look like much at the moment, but then early stitches in knitting don't look like much either, so bear with. But now we're going to do 2 purl stitches again, so it's important to remember to bring the yarn down to the front, and we want to tuck it over as far as possible out the way so we can find that next vertical bar. So we find our next vertical bar, going underneath. We don't go to the back this time. What we do is, you can see the yarn's now trapped between those 2 loops. We bring that up to create a horizontal bar over our vertical bar, and then we're going to hook that yarn, just pull that out the way, bring that through the vertical bar and up. Keep that on your hook, and then just give that a little tug just to tighten that up. Do another one of those, keep the yarn at the front, find the next vertical bar, put your hook under there, bring the yarn over the front, over, then pull that through the vertical bar, keep the loop, and just give it a little tug just to neaten it up. Okay, then we're going to finish up with 2 knit stitches. So yarn back up the top again. At the top, it's a little bit like knitting where you have to come forward and backward with your yarn. But for a knit stitch, we just make sure the yarn's at the top, out the way, go onto the vertical bar, find the hole that's just behind, put your hook to the back, grab the yarn, bring it through the hole, under the vertical bar to the right hand side of it, and just bring up a nice neat loop. Then the last one, you can't really go to the back, is the very last vertical bar sat on the end of the project. Sometimes it can be hard to see this one, so what's a good idea is just neaten up your project. Keep it flat to your hook, like so. Check where the last vertical bar is, and then you should be easier to see the last vertical bar, because sometimes you can end up working into this one, the project might be down here. So it's important to make sure it's nice and straight. We're going to go onto that last vertical bar here, and then we can't go to the back because there's no project to go through, so we just grab the yarn and bring it under the loop to the right hand side and keep the loop. Okay, so that's our first row of our rib stitch. We've done got 2 knit, 2 purl, 2 knit, 2 purl, 2 knit. Effectively, the first one was just the loop on a hook, so we only did the 1 knit stitch to begin. But what we're going to do now is a normal return row, exactly the same as last time. And if you remember, what we do first is we just pull through the first loop only. So we yarn over, pull through the first loop only, so just the 1. And then we pull through 2 loops all the way to the end. So we yarn over, then pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, all the way back to the beginning. So we start off with 1, then it's 2 all the way back. So important to remember that first one. If you want to check your stitch count, the good idea is to check it whilst you're this end. So before you do a return row, pull for the last 2. Okay, so there we go. That's our first beginning of our rib stitch. You can see the difference in stitches. You see these little purl stitches are looking like knitted purl stitches. And we just repeat that over and over and over again. So same again. I'll show you one more time. We're going to ignore, now we're moving up a level. I'm going to ignore the first vertical bar because our stitch is technically already worked with this loop. So we need to find the second vertical bar here. And we're doing knit stitches at the beginning. So we're going to go under that vertical bar, find the hole at the back, grab the yarn from the back, bring it for the hole and under the vertical bar to the right hand side of it. And then making sure it's nice and loose and neat on your hook. So now we're going to do 2 purl stitches, and we know that because we've got these 2 horizontal bars here. So if you remember, we bring the yarn down to the front, to the right of our next bar, out of the way. These can be a little bit tighter to work on because they've obviously got this bit of yarn here holding it down. But this time, go onto the vertical bar. We don't go to the back, stay at the front. We bring the yarn up, hook it, bring that through the vertical bar. Keep a nice loop. Then we give it a little tug just to neaten it off. Same again for the next one. That's our next one. So just above our horizontal bar will be our vertical bar. Go onto there. Again, keeping the yarn at the front. Grab it, bring it through. Keep a nice loop. Give that a little tug just so it neatens up. And then we do 2 knit stitches. So we keep the yarn at the top. Go onto the next vertical bar. They should be a bit bigger because they're knit stitches. And we go to the back for a knit stitch. Bring the yarn through the back and to the right of the bar. And that's it. Keep the loop on your hook. Do that again. Make sure the yarn's at the top. Next vertical bar for the gap at the back. Through the gap under the bar to the right. Keep a nice loop. Now we do 2 knit stitches. So we bring the yarn to the front. Keep it to the right hand side of that first bar. Go onto the little bar, keeping it to the front so we don't go to the back. Tuck the yarn round, grab it. It helps, I put it out the way of with my thumb. It sometimes helps to get it through, otherwise it can get caught like that, you see. Nice loop, then give it a tug to neaten up. Again, keep the yarn to the front. You should get used to this hopefully. Go onto the next bar, keep it to the front. Tuck the yarn round, hold it out the way with your thumb, bring it through, keep a nice loop and give it a little pull. Then we finish up with 2 knit stitches. So yarn back up to the top, go under the bar, find the hole, just to the left of it, go to the back, bring the yarn through, under the bar to the right of it, keep a nice loop. Then the very last one, again, make sure it's nice and level. Follow the last vertical bar to make sure you're working under the right bit of yarn. And we're just going to go through the last vertical bar and grab the yarn. Okay. I haven't gone through that bar properly. There we go. Grab the yarn, just bring it under that bar. And that's all we do for the very last stitch. There we go, so that was our second forward row, and then we're going to do a normal return row, which is always the same. And can you remember what to do first? We just come under the one loop only, so do your little chain one at the beginning, one loop only, and then it's 2 loops all the way back. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. I should make that into a little song, shouldn't I? Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. See, I've gone mad, it's the heat. I'm singing to 350,000 plus people. I've gone crazy. There we go, yarn over, pull through 2. All the way to the end, yarn over, pull for the last 2, 1 loop left. And there we go, you can start seeing your project coming together. So the purl stitches and the knit stitches, the more you make, the more of a rib stitch effect you get here. This shows up better maybe because it's on a smaller, thinner yarn. But let's do it. I'm going to do a few more rows of this, and hopefully we can start to see the rib stitch coming together. So just done a couple more rows, and let's have a look. So there you go, you can really see the rib stitch coming together with the knit stitches, which look like proper little knit stitches, and the purl stitches creating the valleys in between. So there we go, and on the back it just looks like loads of sort of little bumps on the back. So it is very different to knitting in that sense. it really is only the impression of knitting. So I hope you've enjoyed that tutorial. I hope you managed to follow along, and I hope it's inspired you to give it a try. You can either just have a bit of a play with just purl stitches or play with knit stitches. If you just do knit stitches, you will get the infamous curling problem, and I've yet to really figure out a way of beating that. You can just do, like in knitting as well, you can do some purl stitches at the beginning, then do all your knit stitches, and that might help with curling. That's a trick in knitting as well. But doing the rib stitch here, because you're doing knit purl, it does stop the curling effect. As you can see here on this one, it's not curling, only a little bit at the very beginning. So it's quite flat. So it's quite a good stitch actually for if that really bothers you, which it kind of bothers me. But I'll see you soon for some more crochet, crafting, unboxing fun. And yeah, and like I said, this will be released as a free pattern on my website when it's finished. So follow me on Instagram for updates. And yeah, I'll look forward to sharing that with you soon. So hopefully in time for Christmas, if you want to start thinking about Christmas projects. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.